Hey everybody, and welcome back to Lindsay's Little Library. I wanted to pop in today and do a quick little book review of a book that I just finished in January that I absolutely adored and just cannot talk enough about. And that is As Bright as Heaven by Susan Meissner. This is available on February 6th, so today. So bottom line is go out and get this book. It's fabulous. I first heard about this book through a website called bookishfirst.com. It is a website where you can go in and create a profile, and then every Monday they have upcoming releases available for you to give your first impressions on. So you get a little synopsis of it, you see what the book is going to look like, and then they give you like the first chapter or two to read, and then you can submit your first impression about the writing style, the characters, what the book cover was, basically just what your gut reaction is to the book, and then you can pretty much throw your name in to win one of the copies of it. I was lucky enough to get this copy about a month or so ago and could not wait to read this. First of all, it's historical fiction, which is completely my jam. I love, love, love historical fiction. Second of all, it's Susan Meissner. Susan Meissner also wrote Secrets of a Charmed Life, which I read a couple of years ago and fell in love with. It's another World War II historical fiction you just must pick up. It's fabulous. This book, however, it happens during World War I, or the Great War at the time, but it does not center around a war story. It follows a family who moves to Philadelphia to kind of change careers a little bit, and it really centers around the Spanish flu epidemic. I had no clue that this Spanish flu was so bad. That's one thing I love about historical fiction, is that I do learn a little bit about history. Now I do understand these are fictional characters. The very details of what happened are fiction or based on maybe a story she came across, but the main theme of it really did happen. The Spanish flu really did happen. So it opened my eyes to not only the fact that we were sending troops overseas to fight in this huge world war, but we were also dealing with this horrible, horrible epidemic at home. In the back of the book, every so often I like to kind of read through the author's notes, especially with a historical fiction, because I kind of want to figure out where they got this idea from and kind of how much research they did on it, honestly. And Susan Meissner talked about how what prompted her to write this book was this was what she considered an untold story, and Susan Meissner likes those untold stories and to kind of bring them to life. So she put some really staggering statistics in the back of the book here. It says the Spanish flu pandemic of 1918-1919 was the deadliest disease in history. Exceptionally worse than the Black Plague, which most people I think would think of the Black Plague as being the worst one, but it's not. Spanish flu was. 50 million people worldwide were estimated to have died from the Spanish flu. Far more than the numbers of the lives lost in both world wars combined. That's crazy. That's crazy. So that was interesting to know how big that was. The other strange thing was that I'm reading this book during a horrible flu season this year. So it was kind of strange how that connected, and just thinking about how much worse it must have been for them than it is for even us now. So let's talk about the story a little bit. So As Bright as Heaven, again, follows one family, and you hear from 4 different points of view from the family, and they're the 4 women. So you have Pauline, the mother. You have Evelyn, which is the oldest daughter. She's smart, she's very driven, she's very intellectual, and she seeks out knowledge, and you can tell she's just a driven individual. The second oldest daughter is Maggie. She seems to be a little bit of the rebel in her. She is just gonna walk to her own tune. She's gonna do what she wants to do. She doesn't care. It's Maggie. And then you have the youngest daughter, Willa, who is kind of trying to be the big girl when she's really just the youngest daughter. Again, very, very loving and very smart, and a very, very sweet, sweet girl. So you hear from their different points of views, and Susan Meissner does a great job taking you from one character to the next, giving you a little bit of a taste of what their thoughts are, where they're coming from. You may have repeated events, but you see it through the different eyes of the 4 different women, so it doesn't feel repetitive. You really get an overall sense of what is going on here. The other thing I really loved about this book is it starts way before the Spanish flu comes, takes you all the way through, and then takes you beyond. Kind of what are the repercussions of the decisions that were made during this horrible time, and what happens from there. A few other main characters in the book. You have Thomas, which is the father and husband of Pauline. The other little twist that Susan puts into this book is that Thomas and the Bright family, they leave their hometown, I believe they're in like cotton farming, and they move to Philadelphia to kind of apprentice for Uncle Fred. So Thomas is going to learn the mortuary trade. So Uncle Fred owns a funeral home and he is a mortician. So you have that side of it. So when the flu hits, where do you think all these bodies are going? They're coming right to them. And so that's another little twist that Susan puts into it. It works. It's fantastic. I loved it. You have the neighbors that live across the street and their struggles and their little story alongside it and how they connect to the family. It's really, really great. You have a wonderful, diverse cast of characters here. It's fabulous. There are plenty of twists and there are some secrets that have to be kept, and it's very interesting how things really get wrapped up in the end. I was surprised by who and how the Bright family was affected by the flu. This is not a happily ever after story. I'm just going to forewarn you on that one. But Susan did a really great job writing this book. So if you are a fan of historical fiction, if you want to learn more or be a little bit more aware of the Spanish flu, I highly, highly suggest you pick up this book, As Bright as Heaven, again on sale today. And I will leave the link to the Bookish Verse website I mentioned before below. And let me know, have you read this book or are you interested in this book? So feel free to comment, like, or subscribe, and we'll chat with you soon. Bye.